Welcome back to another episode of Some Old AV Guy. My name is Eric. Today, our guest is Shane Razzi. He is an AVT from Philly. He also is a musical artist in the band Lead Chambers. Welcome, Shane.
Hi, Eric. It's
Thank you.
nice to sit here with you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, I had a few things I wanted to talk to you about. First off, at least for our viewers, how did you get in the AV field? What is it that you do? Give me a little history about that.
Okay. So I've been in AV for about 3 years now. I started off, so I was working the door at a club, and my boss at the time, Vince, he reached out one day and he was like, "Hey, I have a friend who does like corporate AV work, and they need some guys that they can trust. They're going to start you at $27 an hour." And I was like, well, yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, even 3 years ago, that's not a bad rate.
Right. So I worked with that company a couple times, and I met a bunch of people, and everybody was really cool. And eventually, when like the main company here in Philly was looking for more people, a couple guys hit me up both on the same day, and they're like, "Hey, they're looking for work now." And so I emailed them, and they put me right on the list. And man, they have taken care of me from every step of the way. They've taught me basically all I know. Like I did come into this with some audio background and some stagehand working at like festivals and stuff.
Sure, sure.
Um, and now I manage a stage at Philly Folk Fest every year.
Nice.
But
So if someone was looking at, and I'm going to just kind of put this out there, I'm assuming that like a lot of guys in AV, you have some sort of a background. So have you been pursuing your musical dreams prior to getting into AV?
oh yeah, of course, I've been playing guitar since I was 14. I'm 33 now.
Gotcha.
I have always been really into music. One thing I learned very early on was that I didn't have a big community supporting me. I didn't have a bunch of people that were there to like back me up for things. And one thing I had to learn right away was how to do my own sound.
Yeah.
And I had to buy all my own equipment and like figure it out. Um, and then I went to school. I went to CCP for I started off at with music performance, and then they pulled me to the side one day and they were like, "You should try sound tech, music recording."
Nice. Nice.
And I did that, and it was great. I didn't end up finishing because I was having a rough time back then, but um, eventually, yeah, I'll tell you this. I was at a show, like a local show, but some of my favorite musicians in the city, and it was afterwards. We were all hanging out, and this guy showed up. He wasn't there for the show. He was actually at Union Transfer and at like seeing another show, and he came back and he was like, "Man, the sound guy there." This was years ago, so it's probably not the same guy. But he was like, "The sound guy there was like terrible. There was so much feedback. There were so many problems, and I just like wanted to go up and tell him how to do his job the whole time." And I had this like epiphany moment. I was like, "Oh, this is kind of what I wanted to do anyway. Like I should try and do this. I could be that guy."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so once I had that intention, things started to snowball, and then I ended up working in AV, and fast forward to today, I do a lot of like breakout tech stuff. I work for a dance competition that's multi-state in the spring,
Nice.
and I do all the sound, all the lighting, and the live stream all by myself, 16-hour days, 3 days a week, like in a row. Um, yeah, and like I don't know, this industry, I was saying this to somebody the other day, like it's both the most progressive and the most bootstrappy
Yeah.
industry that I've ever come in contact with. Like if you show up with the right attitude and like you're there to learn and you're there to do a good job and really take care of the people you're working with, like that, I want to make sure everybody goes home safe,
Yeah.
um, then you're gonna rise up.
Exactly, exactly. And so because of that, let's just say that your musical career didn't take off. Is it safe to assume that you would pretty much stay in the industry?
Yeah, yeah.
Nice, nice. Um, Kind of like a lot of people in our industry, we have gotten in from a friend who has uh, been doing the work, or someone that we just happen to run into is like, oh yeah, I can actually make, you know, $250 a day, and it's good work, hard work. So when you're younger, it's, physically, it's good for you as far as the exercise is concerned. Um, have you taken any classes or done any research on the equipment that you've worked on, or is that something you've just kind of done a lot of on-the-job training?
Well, I've done a ton of on-the-job training. I did go to school for sound recording, so I have a bit of a background of how audio works moving into it, but not a whole lot about video and lighting. But the main company that I work for here in Philly, they've put together some basic trainings and advanced trainings.
Nice.
And oh man, that has helped so much. I can't speak highly enough of
I'm sure.
these guys.
I'm sure. So somebody wanting to get into business like you, maybe one of our viewers who just happened upon this video, um, how would you recommend to them to get in the industry? One of our other episodes, our guest was talking about either getting into a hotel or joining the local union or something like that. How would you, like, if you were to have a friend who wanted to get into the business, how would you recommend that they do that?
Well, the first thing I would do is tell them to learn how to wrap a cable.
Yeah, exactly.
'Cause that is very important. Uh, but honestly, the company I work for, they're always looking for people.
Mhm.
And if I ever run into somebody, because like my whole thing is I want to work with people I trust. I
Sure.
want to work with people that I know are going to have my back because it's dangerous work. We're working with big, heavy stuff that like I've witnessed horror stories and I've heard horror stories. Like the other day, I we were at the holiday party and a friend told me that my other friend got hit in his head and had like a big gash and he had to go to the hospital and get stitched up and now he's got a scar. I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
it's definitely really important to keep your eyes and ears open when you're on a job site. I've seen many a times where something could have gone really bad had people not been paying attention, and I think that kind of talks to another point of when you're on job site, there are you can always tell there's people that will gather in the corner and just want to sit and chat, or there are guys who really want to work, and sometimes those two personalities don't necessarily match up. Not saying that there's people who just do nothing, but um, I've also heard some real horror stories how somebody wasn't paying attention, and it's not necessarily that they were out of it or anything. They just weren't paying attention,
yeah.
and they lost hold of a piece of equipment and it fell from up in the catwalk,
Hmm.
or the guys just didn't have a good handle on a heavy piece of equipment as they're unloading a truck, and people just get hurt. And that's why our industry actually has rules and regulations to help from having a job site be unsafe. You had also mentioned that you've heard some horror stories. On the flip side of that, what would you say like was the most amazing show that you've worked on, or the coolest thing that you've gotten to work with? Um, Tell me a little about that.
So I've I've gotten to work. I've worked a lot of festivals at this point. I've been on stages with really cool musicians, but I think the most like soul-filling experience that I've had on the job was when I started working at the dance comp.
Hmm.
I didn't expect to really like this thing. Like, honestly, I was surprised to get it. I had very little experience at that point, but nobody else would even try to take it. And I showed up and it's like, oh, I don't know how I'm gonna do this and that. And then I'm sitting there and this like little 4-year-old girl comes out and she starts dancing and she was just so free. And I was like, wow, like this is why I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm here to provide this space for people to like live out their dreams. And like
exactly.
that's what I want to do.
Exactly. Um, I think that more often than not, the minutia of doing AV kind of gets in the way, and people forget about the fact that, we're providing a service, and that service is helping portray some point, whether it's a competition or a um, product launch or just an educational conference. Um, but the whole point of it is about the experience of the attendee and the
Yeah.
experience of those involved, up on stage. So for your instance, there, um, because of what you and the other guys provided, that allowed her to be free, enjoy what she did, and just make it an overall good experience.
Yeah.
So, um, you had said that you've been in the business for 3 years.
Hmm.
Did you join the business during COVID or just before COVID? And
Uh,
if so,
I
how did that affect you?
I started maybe February, March of 2022.
Okay.
So it was just after COVID, after things were picking back up. There was a huge opportunity for new people to come in because a lot of people retired
Oh, yeah.
after COVID. So this giant wide open door opened up for me, and I was able to get in there and build it up. And there were people who got in around that time as well, and they weren't the greatest. They weren't the best people you would want to work with.
Sure.
But
And I think as an older person, I
mhm,
can't even say older person, but um, guys who've been in the business as long as I have, or even longer, there was a huge influx of labor that left the industry completely because of COVID. And because of that, that caused a lot of open positions and people looking to get into the industry. So being one of those, I'd like to shy away from saying millennial, but being someone from that generation, how do you see our labor force growing? Do you feel like There's enough of the older veterans that are there to help
Mm.
provide information and training, or do you feel like the industry itself is struggling because it's, one against the other?
I would say that for the most part, the veterans that are there, if you're if you respect them and you're good to them, and maybe if you don't outshine them too much,
Yeah.
they'll be there, they'll take you out under their wing, and take care of you. Like, I'm so grateful for all the veterans that were there for me in the beginning,
Nice.
and really showed me the ropes, and they're still there at
That's
different degrees.
that's good. That's good. So, so kind of piggybacking off of that, who would you say at least, I'm sure there's tons of other people that inspire you outside of this industry, but who would you, or not who specifically, but can you give an example of someone who's been in this industry who has inspired you to continue um, uh, this process through your career, and what have they done? What did they say? What was the situation?
Well, there are a couple veterans that, like I said, they took me under their wing. They showed me the ropes. They were very welcoming, and they're basically like, if you respect me, I'll respect you. You make sure I'm safe, I'll make sure you're safe, and just like follow the rules the best you can, you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Before that, there's also some people that are my age, but they've been in the industry longer, and they have also been very good to me, and they've showed me a bunch of things, and also they like give me gig opportunities
Nice.
when they're available. So um, I have become a breakout tech a lot more often over the past year or so,
Mhm.
and I owe that greatly to like at least one friend of mine who was just like, "Hey, I got this show in the Poconos. Like, let's go
Nice.
stay in the Kalahari for 4 days and like go in the water park and eat $25 sushi at the end of the day." You
Exactly.
know, like it's really awesome.
So it sounds
Uh,
to me like this one guy that you're is a coworker of yours, that he inspires you by being sort of a mentor. So if we were to recommend to one of our viewers looking to get in the industry, it would be, look for a mentor, look for someone who has a bunch of knowledge. Now, obviously, getting into the industry, that really depends. It sounds like maybe your route would be to, hit up some of the sound guys or video guys at a concert or a festival and ask them how they got in. Um, maybe join a local union or AV house. Um, but but yeah, that sounds great. Um, so you said you went up to the Poconos. Um, what's the most interesting place that you've actually worked at?
mm, Probably Philly Folk Fest.
Cool.
Yeah, I volunteer for Philly
Mhm.
Folk Fest, but it's taught me so much, and it's really changed my life. It's a very welcoming community, and I just love to be there and meet all the music. I'm the stage manager, so I have to go talk to everybody.
Who's been your favorite artist at that festival?
I saw David Crosby there on his 80th birthday.
Oh, wow.
That was really awesome.
When I first got into this industry, I ran camera on
Hmm.
the basically camera right up in front of the stage, and
Cool.
yeah, it's really interesting to meet artists. I would have to say that if you're part of the technical crew, or even just a stagehand running cable, um, there's a lot of great artists that when you meet them in person, they're still like it doesn't ruin the image that you have of them. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
sure.
obviously, there's still some artists that are very withdrawn and don't want to have anything to do with the crew, but um, that's totally a different story. Um,
I do want to say one more thing about mentorship,
sure,
and that is not everyone wants to be a mentor.
of course.
I learned that very quickly with one of my first mentors. Um, like right before I got in the industry, I was working at a club and I was being mentored by the sound guy who didn't actually want to be my mentor, but the boss was like, "Hey, we need a second sound guy."
Sure, sure.
So that was tough. Like I had to learn how to learn from him, but also completely stay out of his way because if I got in it, he would yell at me.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I think that has something to do with safety. Also, I mean, there are just some people that are complete dicks, and there's nothing you can
Yeah,
do about that.
for
Um,
sure.
um, have you been to other festivals outside of Pennsylvania? And if so, how would you say that is different from the one there in Philly?
So the coolest other festival that I've been to so far, like I haven't been to Bonnaroo or Coachella or anything like that yet,
Oh,
but I have been going to Beard Fest the last couple years
I've heard of
in
it.
Jersey.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so much fun. Such a blast. Like there's two stages. The main stage, like you're in the woods, you're in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, but somehow the main stage is on a beach and there's this big lake. So you can just be sitting there listening to some of the coolest music you've ever heard. There's so many different types of music there. Just like swimming, you know,
Nice.
in all the in all the in all the ways you could be swimming, you know what I
Sure,
mean?
sure, sure. Exactly. Um, would you say for someone getting into the industry that financially, it has helped you pursue your dreams in music and
Oh, for sure. Well, first of all, 80-90% of stagehands are musicians.
sure.
So like you make a lot of connections there. But also the money that I made from working as a stagehand, I was able to pay for my whole first record. I wouldn't have been able to do that without it.
So speaking of your record, I understand that you just released your record recently. You want to tell us a little bit
So
about that?
yeah, I've been working on this project for around 10 years. It's been mostly solo. Well, in the summer 2023, I got a couple guys together, very talented musicians, and we went into a studio that was new, and we recorded 6 tracks. So I have this 3 EP LP that we're releasing in stages. We still haven't recorded the second and third part, but the first part, 6 songs, was recorded. We we finished everything, and then the producer reached out to me and he was like, "Hey, I lost all the files."
Oh no.
So it took him a lot of money, and it took like 2 months to get about 80% of the files back.
Wow.
And then he used up the rest of the money that I paid him to make the best mix that he could and the best master that he could, but it still had a lot of issues.
Wow, it sounds
And then he sent it to me and he was like, "This is the best I can do. Either scrap the whole project or figure it out yourself."
wow.
But that really lit a fire under my ass in 2024 to really learn mixing and mastering. And I still have a long way to go.
Sure.
And these tracks aren't perfect,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty dang proud of them.
Nice. So
What we've got out so far.
what program do you, I'm assuming you use some sort of program like Ableton or
It's like Pro Tools,
Pro
there's
Tools.
Ableton, there's Logic. I like FL the most.
Okay.
That's what I use the most. I did buy Pro Tools because that's what the record was recorded in.
Hmm.
But I don't like Pro Tools. I can't like it's all so small. I have to squint the whole time, and it's all so old. The UI is terrible. Like, what are you guys doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like FL. You can do everything in FL that you could do in any other DAW.
Gotcha.
And you buy it once and that's it. You get free updates forever. It's like $200 for the producer edition. It's like
Nice.
it's good stuff. So yeah, I like using FL. That's how I mastered everything. I used Ozone
Hmm.
for a lot of the mastering, and it sounds pretty good. It obviously doesn't sound like a master professional mastering tech, but it's the best that I could do in the time that I had, and the time is now. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
got to
Yeah.
get it out there. So we've got 3 of the 6 songs out on Spotify and Apple Music, and then there's a live recording of another song we also have out there, and we just released a video for Season's Greetings, our the song that we just put out last week, and that we actually filmed in Tokyo in Japan 5 years ago. My partner and I, we went out there. She's a scientist. She had a conference in South Korea, and she was like, "We should go to Tokyo for a week." So we did that, and the whole time we were there, we were like, sightseeing and stuff, going to like cool nature places, and we would just film me walking around and stuff like that. And I performed in this park called Yoyogi Park. There were these giant ravens, and you can hear them in the first like couple seconds of the video.
Wow. That's awesome.
But we finally finished it. We got the studio recording. We It took us 5 years from the time that we filmed it, but it's out there now, and it's actually doing really well. It's got about 500 views in the first 6 days on YouTube. And
Wow.
to put that into context, my last video I put out, it took over 2 years to get 1,000 views.
Gotcha. So you're at least doubling the amount of views and interest and whatnot. Well, you know what? I think that's actually just about to wrap up our time. I do want to thank Shane again for joining us today. Feel free to go down in the description and you can see a link to his band. And we just want to remind everyone to be safe out there, look for a mentor, and enjoy yourself. So thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next gig.
Thank you, Eric.